Okay, today's video is about the FaderPort from PreSonus. Just right off the bat, I want to say that I've watched several videos on this unit, and there are plenty of resources on YouTube of people covering all the ins and outs of this and just have really thorough reviews of this video. And if I were to try to make a video like that, one, I would sound like an idiot because I never understand all the perimeters of anything. I usually find 2 or 3 things on that unit that I actually use. So instead of making a video like that, I kind of just want to go over 2 or 3 things that have really helped my home studio workflow with the PreSonus FadePort. Before we get started with today's video, please do hit that like button as well as the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos from me in the future. Let's go and get started. Okay, so like I just said, there's basically no way that I'm going to be able to cover all of the different parameters that this unit covers. I was watching Sweetwater's gear review on this, and Mitch Gallagher said that there are basically 40 or 50 different things that you can control just on this front panel.
We can control up to 40 functions from the front panel.
Essentially what I gathered from the reviews that I was watching, that PreSonus created this ultimately to integrate really well with Studio One, which is their DAW. And basically they want to keep your hands off of your mouse and keyboard and on the actual FaderPort as often as possible. This just kind of seems like the ultimate shortcut, like just everything that you would need to do in your DAW you can do on the FaderPort. However, as someone who is working in Logic, not in Studio One, while I will say there is definitely some overlap, and a lot of the things that you see people using in Studio One with the FaderPort you can also do in Logic. Not everything carries over 100%, and it can be a bit quirky in other DAWs at times, but there is still a lot of really good functionality. And that quirkiness really didn't affect the main uses that I found myself using the FaderPort for. The FaderPort is essentially broken up into 4 different sections. You have this top row of buttons, you have this middle set of with the knob and these buttons, the bottom, and then the actual fader. So let's go ahead and take a look more specifically at each section and what I did in those sections that helped me record and produce and mix songs, I think much faster than I typically would. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so we're in Logic, and I'm taking a look at the project I did last week that was taking a look at Logic stock instruments, and I tried to write a metal demo using only Logic stock instruments. If you want to see that video, that will be in the description of this video. Also, I kind of just wish you guys could see my camera setup right now. I have like my main camera just chilling on a mic stand because I'm having to use my tripod for the PreSonus FadePort. Let's just go over a few things that I really enjoy about the FadePort. Like I said earlier, unfortunately it doesn't integrate perfectly with Logic, so a lot of the uses you would have in like Studio One for navigating through the project and even some other stuff that you can do with the FadePort doesn't necessarily apply to using other DAWs like Logic. However, basic navigation, like if you go to the channel button, then you can use the knob to scroll through channels, or you can use the next and previous button to scroll through your channels. Basic navigation like that works. If you use the scroll button, then you will be able to scroll through the project and start in different places. Obviously, the play and pause button will play the project. However, in Logic, it does not pause the project. You have to press the stop button to pause the project, like this. If you hit that stop button again, it will take you back to 0. The rewind and fast forward buttons do work, and those you just have to press stop to get those to stop where you want them to. This loop button, if you have a loop, it will initiate the loop just like it would in Studio One. So we're down on the sub drop. I'm just down on this channel just to show you so you can clearly see as it's not in a channel stack or anything. But I really do like using the PreSonus FadePort to punch myself in for recording. I think that's really cool. And to undo something, if you don't like the take that you did, you'll just hold shift and press the previous button to undo and then get back to 0. I just like that better than having to record something and then hit delete and scroll up and press yes, I do want to delete that. So that is one of the things I really do like. I don't know, maybe it's just pressing the red button. Maybe I just like pressing the red button better than not pressing the red button. But I do like to punch myself in for recording. And like I said earlier, there is a foot switch input on the back of the FadePort that defaults to punching in for recording. So that is something I'm excited to try out whenever I'm doing guitar recordings. Having to take your hands off of the guitar often whenever you're recording can be kind of annoying. So I'm excited to give that foot switch a try whenever I get a foot switch for that. As you can see, there are several different buttons underneath the knob. Right now we're on the channel button, which I said earlier makes the FadePort switch between channels. But you can also go to this pan, and then if you have it on pan, the knob will obviously pan the channels. Another cool thing is there's a dedicated click button here, so you can initiate the click without having to move over to your mouse to do that. and that starts to click, obviously. A really cool feature that I actually have used a few times is this marker button. And so once you're on the marker setting, you will also scroll through the project. And then once you start the song, you can actually press the knob, and that will lay a marker down to wherever you want to be. So this is my verse. These are my chorus guitars. And this is my breakdown. So you can just do that, or you can play the song and lay markers down as you're playing the song. And then all of that can be undone with the undo button that I spoke of earlier. So back on the channel button and scrolling through the channels, this is not something that I use the FaderPort for often, but I do think that it is convenient, and that is the solo and the mute channels. So you can solo whatever track you're on. Or you can mute the channels. Let's take a look. We'll pull up the information tab on here. This is kind of one thing that I'm bummed out about, and maybe I'm just not understanding how to do it, but there is a bypass button on the FaderPort, which is supposed to bypass the plugins that you have on whatever channel you're hovering over, and that does not seem to be the case, at least not in, see, now it's doing, I don't know, at the moment I'm assuming that doesn't work. If I'm incorrect about that, I do apologize, PreSonus, but I've not been able to figure out how to make that work. So other than just like basic little navigation buttons, you know, scrolling through the project or laying markers or punching in for recording, or just any of the basic stuff that you like may have to use your both hands to go into your mouse to get started on, which can take a little more time, kind of throw you out of the flow state a little bit. The main thing that I've really loved the PreSonus FadePort for is obviously the fader and writing automation with the fader. Writing the automation for the fader has been absolutely incredible for me, and it has been a bit of a game changer. Rather than dreading having to go through and click in automation points and pull them up by hand and then pull them back down by hand, I am able to just write the automation with the fader, which has been a huge help for me. To get into automation mode, you have to instantiate automation on your computer. So in Logic, you'll just press A on, and then whatever channel you're on, you have these different automation settings. So like I can automate the EQ or the compressor, but I'm going to focus on volume. So let's say if I want my guitars in the chorus to be louder than they are elsewhere in the song, I will just hold shift and go to latch. And so there are several different ways, or really 3 different ways to write automation on the PreSonus FadePort. You can either touch, which you'll have to continuously hold where you want it to be and just touch it there, or you can hold shift and press touch again to go into latch mode, and it will stay wherever you put it. Or you can do write mode, which Logic gives you a warning whenever you go into write mode. See, it tells you write mode erases multiple parameters in one go without touching anything. In most cases, it's better to use latch. So I just stick on latch. It will allow you to write automation, but I'm going to latch some automation. So we'll go into latch mode, and like I said earlier, we are right before our chorus guitar is about to come in, and I'm going to increase the volume on my chorus guitars and just show you how I would go about writing automation for that. And it's really just that simple. And if you know you don't like your automation, you can always go back and press undo, and it gets rid of all of it, which is also super helpful. I love a good undo button because I'm always messing up, so undo is awesome. Yeah, I think that writing the automation is probably my favorite part of the PreSonus FadePort up to this far. I've only had the product for about a week. You can probably tell I'm wearing different clothes than I was at the beginning. I wanted to take some more time and play with the FadePort and get a little more familiar with the product before I try to tell you what I really do enjoy about it. So other than really just using that fader to write automation, I really do love just the basic navigation that you can do with the scrolling through and making markers, and then the panning is pretty cool. And then actually just punching physical buttons. I don't know, call me dumb or whatever. It's not required to be able to make good music, but being able to punch physical buttons is a nice change rather than having to go through and click with a mouse. So I do really love that. So while the FaderPort's not going to keep you from having to use your mouse and keyboard whenever you're like adjusting different plugins and stuff, it is really cool for setting volume and panning and punching in for record and writing automation. And as far as production goes, I think all those things can be a little bit of a pain in the butt sometimes, and they will just completely take you out of the creative mindset. But if you can just get really good at just naturally reaching over to the FaderPort and pressing the button, there's a learning curve, but once you get past the learning curve, I think that it is really worth having the FaderPort. It's a really, really cool product. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed checking out the PreSonus FadePort. Like I said multiple times in the video, this is a really cool product, and while there is a bit of a learning curve, if you can kind of incorporate it into your natural workflow, I do think that you will get your money's worth out of this. Just being able to write automation with an actual fader is worth the 200 bucks in my opinion. But there are plenty of other really cool functions that you get out of the PreSonus FadePort, so I can highly recommend this. And I'm sure there are other products that do pretty similar things, so if you guys are using something similar to this, or if you guys have found other workarounds for your automation, go ahead and leave that in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys are doing for that. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, like I said earlier, please do hit that like button as well as the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos from me in the future. I will see you guys in the next video.